Hello, happy people. This is Mr. Wilcox coming to you from my kitchen table. This is our fourth week of virtual lessons for statistics. So last week we reviewed how to use the empirical rule and how to use z-tables to find probabilities. So today what we're going to do is we're going to continue to use those z-tables to find percentiles, which we will talk about what those are today and how to find them. So today, along with your notebook, you're going to need your Z chart, your Z table. Those are the last 2 pages of both packets if you printed them off a Brightspace or got a paper copy. Otherwise, the Z table is pretty easy to find on Google. You just Google Z table or standard normal distribution table, and lots of things should pop up for you. So hopefully that is accessible for you. So real quick, we're going to recall what a z-score is. So I'm going to pause now so you can pause the video and write this in your notebook. And when you're ready, hit play again. All right, so a z-score, remember we used to find probabilities that a value is less than that z-score, less than or equal to, by finding the proportion inside the table. So the proportion is the area to the left of that z-score, or it's the percentage probability that we are less than or equal to that. Remember, if you wanted a percentage above that, we had to subtract from 1. And if you wanted to find a percentage in between, you had to take the proportion of the biggest z-score minus the proportion of the smallest z-score. And to find a z-score, we were taking our value minus our mean and then dividing by our standard deviation. We are going to use this formula right here again today. All right, so we're going to use it to find percentiles. So here's what a percentile is. And again, I'm going to pause for a second so you can pause the video and write this in your notebook. So a percentile is simply a value that indicates a certain percentage below a group of observations. So if you're in the 20th percentile, 20% should be below you. If you took the ACT and your score sheet said you're in the 70th percentile, that means you scored above 70% of the other students, so 70% of the students scored below you. So that is basically what a z-table tells us, is a percentage of data that is below it, below that z-score. So it gives us a percentile in the middle of the table. So we can use the percentile in the middle of the z-table and work our way backwards to find a z-score. And then once we have our z-score, we can work our formula backwards to find and solve for x. So that is what we're going to do today, and that will make a lot more sense with our first example. And so for all of these examples today, we're assuming that they come from a normal distribution. I just wanted to make sure that I had room to write the math down, so I didn't include that, but we are assuming that all of these examples are normally distributed. So if we assume that for a group of students with a mean height of 65 inches and a standard deviation of 4 inches, we want to find the 70th percentile. So we want to find the value that 70% of those students' heights are below. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our z-table. And remember, there's 2 sides. There's a negative side and a positive side. The positive side represents numbers that are standard deviations above the mean, so above 50%. So any percentile above 50%, we're going to use the positive side of the graph. And any percentile that's below 50% is standard deviations below the mean, so we're going to use the negative side. So in this case, we're trying to find the 70th percentile. So I'm going to go to the positive side of my graph, and I'm going to look for the number that is closest to 0.70. So I'm going to go to my graph, and I'm going to go to the middle, and I'm going to keep going until I find numbers that are closest to 0.70. And the 2 numbers that are closest to 0.70 are 0.6985 or 0.7019. So I have 0.6985 or 0.7019. So which of these is closest to 0.70? Well, this is only 0.0015 away, and this is 0.0019 away. So we're not going to use this one because 0.6985 is closer. And the z-score that corresponds with that number is 0.52. So we're going to use 0.52, our mean and our standard deviation, and we're going to plug it into our formula for our z-score, which was z equals our x minus our mean, which in this case is 65, divided by our standard deviation, which in this case is 4. So now we're just going to use our Algebra 1 skills to solve for x. So I'm going to multiply that 4 over. So I'll get 2.08 equals x minus 65. And if I add my 65 over, I get 67.08 for x. So what height is the 70th percentile? Well, that would be 67.08 inches. So 70% of our students should be below 5'7". All right, so I have one more example for you using ACT scores. We're going to find the 80th percentile and the 15th percentile. I'm going to pause here so you can write this in your notebook. And when you're ready, hit play on the video again. So again, just a reminder, we are assuming that that all of these are normally distributed. So that means or distributed. I don't know why I can't say that word. I'm sorry. We are assuming that. I just didn't write it so that I have some room to do the math. So we have a group of juniors with a mean score of 22 on the ACT and a standard deviation of 1.5. We want to find the score that would be the 80th percentile. So that means I'm going to go to the positive side of my z table again. I'm going to try to find the value that's closest to 0.80. And the value that is closest to 0.80 is 0.7995, which is the z-score that corresponds. It's the z-score that corresponds with 0.84. So if our z-score is 0.84, we're going to plug that into our equation. So 0.84 is going to equal our x minus our mean, which is 22, divided by 1.5, our standard deviation. So if I multiply my 1.5 over and then add 22, I will get a score of 23.26. So the 80th percentile, the score that does better than 80% of the students in this group of juniors, is 23.26. All right, so the other percentile we want to find is the 15th percentile. So I have to go to the negative side of my graph. So remember, there's a positive side and there's a negative side. So make sure you're on the negative side to find the score that is closest to 0.15. And the score that is closest to 0.15 is 0.1492. And that is a z-score of negative 1.04. So if I plug that negative 1.04 in and find my x, I'm going to multiply my 1.5 over, then add 22. I get a score of 20.44. So 15% would be below 20.44. All right, so I hope this helps you in finding percentiles from z-tables. I hope you are all happy. I hope you're all healthy, and I hope you all have a great day.